I was putting on the garland regularly on Prabhupada. It seemed like nobody caught on that, it looked, because I just knew from the first day Paramahansa Swami let me put it on that there doesn't seem to be like a real structure here. So I would regularly make sure I got the garland and put it on Prabhupada. And nobody said anything. Nobody said, who do you think, So then a devotee was telling me this ecstatic story, how he made the sandalwood paste up. And how he ground it, and he added camphor to make it cooling, and added saffron so it would be a nice orange color. And then he told me how he put it on. So I okay, exactly. I mean, I had him tell me it. Okay, you do this, and then you add the saffron, and then you add the camphor. Okay, great. And then how you put it on, it was like he said, duh, duh, duh. So I was ready, and I was very proud. I'd been putting the garland on, and I was thinking, now I'm putting the sandalwood paste on. I was very proud of my position. I'm putting the sandalwood paste on Prabhupada. So I went, and I worked, I did it diligently. Put the right amount of camphor in so it was cooling, and made it the right consistency so it wouldn't drip, right? And so I had it ready, and I put it on Prabhupada. And Prabhupada got a cross look in his face. And he just turned his head, and he didn't say anything. But I understood that it was supposed to be put on his temples. That was more important than the forehead. So then I was shaking, but somehow or another I got it on Prabhupada's temples. And then I paid my obeisances. And while I was down there, I was again thinking, my pride had been squished. I was on the hellish planets. But as I was getting up, I was actually in complete ecstasy that I had been chastised by my spiritual master. And that was mercy too. Not just praising you was mercy, but even the chastisement was great mercy, and that my pride had actually been curbed, and I was actually in ecstasy that I'd been chastised, and I never get an ecstasy if I'm chastised. So it was instructive, and it was sweet.
Bharadwaj and I were called to Srila Prabhupada's room. Srila Prabhupada, we were going to talk to Srila Prabhupada about painting for the Krishna book. So I came in, and Bharadwaj was already speaking to Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada turns to me the minute that I come in and said, so, in the middle of the conversation, so what was the conclusion of Einstein at the end of his life? And this is the most amazing thing, because I'm not a scholar, and I don't know anything. But I knew the answer to that question. and so I said that there is a higher consciousness. That because of the order of the universe, this implies a higher being. So Srila Prabhupada said, yes, and then he turned back and continued speaking to Bharadwaj. And this is exactly like what happened to Brahmatirtha, in which Srila Prabhupada asked him the meaning of this verse that he had just quoted in Sanskrit or something like that. And what is the translation or something like that? And Brahmatirtha, from his college days, out of the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, that was the only one that he had memorized. And so he was able to quote it to Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada does this. And then Srila Prabhupada's talking, and he begins telling Krishna book stories. Now, for us, actually, we'd never heard of these stories before. We're getting them on the tapes. But Srila Prabhupada now, he's going to tell us stories that we've never heard before. And he's saying that Lord Krishna, he was such a naughty boy. Oh, he also said that to me. He said, a naughty boy is an intelligent boy. I was naughty when I was a little boy, and so was Lord Krishna, and so was Lord Chaitanya. And so then he's talking about how naughty Lord Krishna is. He says he used to go and he used to pass urine on the clean floor, and then he'd go on it, and Srila Prabhupada went like that. Of course, in the book it says spit, but Srila Prabhupada went like that. And then Srila Prabhupada begins telling the story about the universal form, the universe being contained within the mouth of the universe being contained within the mouth of Lord Krishna when Mother Yashoda opens his mouth. So Srila Prabhupada begins to describe it, and he begins to describe how there were oceans and seas And there was air and fire and earth and water and the 10 directions, north, south, east and west, mountains. And Srila Prabhupada goes on like this for about 5 minutes. And Bharadwaj and I were, as he's speaking, and in this wonderful, charismatic way, we're gradually leaning forward, unbeknownst to us, as we're involved in this story like this. And then at one point, Srila Prabhupada said to Bharadwaj, "Now you paint that!" And it was such a shock. It was a double shock because we hadn't expected Srila Prabhupada. We were coming in, and we weren't expecting Srila Prabhupada to do something sudden like that. And also, it was a shock of how to paint it. So Bharadwaj almost fell over backwards, almost lost his balance. And I also fell completely backwards too, like we were just, physically, we were shocked by what Srila Prabhupada had said. So months later, Bharadwaj was up in Montreal and really struggling with how to paint this picture. So then he writes to Srila Prabhupada and said, "Srila Prabhupada, in all due honesty, I cannot figure it out, how to put all those things in Krishna's mouth." So then Srila Prabhupada sent back a little sketch, and it shows a stick figure of Mother Yashoda standing up. It shows a little stick figure of baby Krishna, of little child Krishna sitting down, and it shows a balloon coming out of his mouth. He said, "That's how you do it." And then Bharadwaj did this beautiful, beautiful painting that's in the original Krishna book of all these things in Krishna's mouth. And that painting is now hanging in the foyer of the Montreal temple.
How Prabhupada is so learned. We're told that Prabhupada, first of all, Prabhupada is an intimate associate of Krishna. So, Dadami Buddha Yogam Tam, Krishna gives the intelligence to his surrendered devotee. And I think the first answer is that it's by the grace of Krishna. Prabhupada knew everything because he knew Krishna. He knew exactly when to quote a particular verse, and that was appropriate at the time. We were also told that Prabhupada did study Bhagavatam during his Grihastha ashram, for example, for 4 hours every day. I heard this. And I also heard, talking to Prabhupada's son, Vrindavan Chandra, who told me that Prabhupada used to personally worship Radha-Krishna deities. He would not only worship the deity in the morning by waking the deity, offering arti, bathing the deity, but he would also cook for the deity personally, and he would also sew the deity's clothing. In other words, he really took care of those deities. So Prabhupada, he did many things. One point is that what we know of Srila Prabhupada, we know from what we saw of him after he came to America, but we don't know everything that happened before that, and we certainly, as Prabhupada said, you are seeing me, but actually, in other words, Prabhupada has his, how Krishna and he are related is something which, so Prabhupada was able to hear from Krishna everything he needed to know. I think it's not only, on the one hand, I'm trying to say that it's both a question of his studying, but at the same time it's also a question of Krishna's revelation to Prabhupada. I don't think, it's one or the other, but it's a combination of both.